Roy Chubby Brown holds the unofficial title of Britain's rudest comedian. But is he offensive or just funny?
Trying to see the gynecologist yesterday. You better come with me. Hey, that's fucking embarrassing. Watching some bloke feeling your wife's minge. Especially when he found the old wedding ring behind a clit.
He's been playing live to over 150,000 people a year for over 3 decades, selling over 40 million quid's worth of tapes and DVDs.
She come back from aerobics at 11.
He's operated largely off the cultural radar all these years, never crossing into the mainstream because his act has been considered too offensive for television until tonight. For a month, I followed Roy, real name Royston Vasey, at work, at home, with family and with friends. On stage, he uses themes that most other comedians discarded several decades ago.
How do you get 20 asylum seekers in a shoebox? Tell them it fucking floats!
It all provokes uncomfortable questions. What's an offensive remark? What's harmless fun? Is it just a joke, or does he really mean it?
They come here dressed like fucking pillar boxes, don't they? Eh? Come over here. You can't say this, you can't say that. Why don't they just fuck off home?
Blackpool on a Saturday night in October, where Roy's performing tonight, as he's done for the last 18 years. As I arrive, hen nights, stag doos and general hard drinking is everywhere. This is the wild, wild northwest. It's 8 p.m. and at the North Pier Theatre, Rockin' with Laughter, the early evening show starring the Crankies, is coming to an end. Backstage, Roy arrives at his dressing room with his wife, Helen.
Have a cup of tea.
Oh, have you, Kate?
Yeah.
He's not on till 9:30, so spends his time signing posters and going through the Chubby Brown merchandise.
Do you like them, darling?
Yeah, I do. I tell you what, they're really good. Look at
Let me have a look at these. Good quality, right?
Yeah.
Well, there you are. Every year I bring out a Christmas card. I do the little drawings myself. Chubby's Christmas card. You know what I'd really like for Christmas? There you are, a little bit of filth for you. So what makes you so special? Lovely idea signing me pussy with your tongue, Chubs. Cracker. Oh, Chubs. Never been with a man before. Look what it says on her ass, Chubby's love books. So what if you are on in 5 minutes? I've been on for 5 days. Look at that. Oh, knob, isn't that a cracker? It's to give the fans something back.
Rockin' with Laughter is over for the night.
That was good.
The Crankies wind down and pack up. Half an hour before showtime, Roy goes through his handwritten comedy notes.
Stuff that this morning I went round for the papers this morning.
All the papers, what, like?
I get the Sun and the Mirror and the Express and stuff like that. Sundays I get the Sunday People and I get the News of the World. News of the World's where most comics get their material from. Things that was in the paper this morning was the bird flu. George Best isn't very well. I've written down here that President of Iran has said he wants to wipe Israel off the map. So, bearing in mind Israel, Jewish things, so I'm jotting things down. What I normally do is I'll put like Jewish, pork, little hat, Bible, the Holy Land, Bethlehem, and then I'll sit and stare at the page and try to intermingle, you know, till something comes up. The George Best thing. Now that's up to me. I'm the one who has to decide. I have to decide whether I'll get away with it.
What's your judgment call tonight? Would you try it or not try it?
Well, he hasn't died yet.
The queue for Chubby stretches half the length of the pier, all the way to Gypsy Petrolengo's kiosk. They are mostly, but not exclusively, male, and mostly, but not exclusively, several sheets to the wind.
If you come to see Chubby, you come to see Chubby, that's it.
He's just down to earth, he's just normal, and he's not snotty-nosed and such.
No, he's just like every day, just like us.
If he's offensive, so what? But at the end of the day, like you're saying, you pay your money, you know. And you take it or leave it, you know. So I wouldn't put 10p in the machine I didn't want to play, so it's Chubby, fat bastard.
The lights dim, the music starts, and the audience seem to take their own cue as the Roy Chubby Brown spectacle begins. The classic Chubby set always begins with a few local in-jokes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Blackpool. I love the place, but today I was mugged in broad daylight. I paid $4.50 for a fucking hot dog.
But after that, the jokes get bluer and bluer.
Have you seen the size of my wife? Fucking hell. Pulls her knickers down to her knees, a fucking arse and minge is still in them.
And there are more and more targets for Chubby's jokes.
A lot of pufters in this town. Doesn't fucking bother me. If you crack gags about homosexuals, say you're homophobic. Fuck off. Phobic means you're frightened of someone. I am. I'm frightened of a cock up the arse.
Chubby's style feels like a lock-in at a pub. He's the gobbiest of gobby blokes holding court. There might be 1,000 people gathered round him, but it feels like he's amongst friends. Jokes are sexist, misogynistic, homophobic, you name it. And the audience, men and women, are in hysterics. To be honest, I was laughing at a lot of it too. But then Roy tells this joke.
I drove in this afternoon, I stopped at the little package shop. Now, I know that's not politically correct. But you know they sell milk and papers when they're not making fucking bombs!
And the mood of the room changes in an instant. Now there are cheers as well as laughs. It starts to feel a bit like a rally.
I mean, I'm not saying all Muslims are terrorists. Don't misquote me here. But isn't it funny how all terrorists are fucking Muslims?
A big part of Roy's act seems to be dealing with hecklers.
Excuse me.
But tonight it gets out of hand. They might be his fans, but he can't control them.
For your wife. You keep shouting at me, and when you get pals, you'll be bleeding at both fucking ends, mate.
And as a result, his act starts to lose its thread.
Hang on.
By the time he comes off, he's seething.
Got a load of fucking cunts in. They fuck the act up. You do routines, you can't do any new stuff because they're not listening.
That's what I said to Jane. I said he's getting fed up with them.
I would have come off after half an hour. I was fucking
I said
sick.
You could tell.
Yeah, I was just getting sick of him, you know.
She says, is he? I said, yeah, you can tell. Absolutely. That's life, isn't it? That's work for you.
Not quite. Some nights must feel like really hard work.
Yeah. I think just gets a bit disillusioned when he's worked all week in his office. And I mean, I've known Roy get up in the middle of the night, about 2 or 3 in the morning. I says, what are you doing? He says, I've just thought of something funny. I'll just go in the office and write it down. You know, his brain's always ticking over, and then you want to say it on stage, and then somebody calls out and you think, oh, spoil it.
And after all these years, you think, oh, hang on, something to be proud of now. I've got an act. It's fresh, it's new, it's inventive. I've created a character that's doing well. And you get these fucking blokes, so 2 pints, and they'll fight anybody. I'm talking to 12 to 14 pints of lager. I'm not talking to a human being. You spend all day writing and rehearsing, and suddenly you go on and you said, did you read the paper today? Yeah, we read the paper today, you fucking big fat bastard. And then they expect me to go home and sit down and think, what a great night I've had. I'm thinking, shower of cunts.
Could I have a picture on my phone, too?
Have you got your phone with you?
I have, yes.
Thank you very much.
You're not having my phone?
No, because I'll have to pay the fucking bill.
Yeah, mate, will you take a picture of me and mine, please? I will do.
I'm on the right, the fat bastard's on the left.
It's for my sister. Can you put to Joanne, you fat cunt?
Right. To Joanne, you fat cunt.
Roy has always maintained in interviews that there's a huge difference between Roy Chubby Brown and Royston Vasey, but I wondered how true that was. I'd spent a bizarre evening with Chubby. Now it's time to get to know Royston. Royston Vasey owns 2 properties. One house in Lincolnshire, where he lives with wife Helen and their 2 young children, and this house in a village near his hometown of Middlesbrough, where he does all his writing.
This is all full of stuff that I've written. Pages full of stuff I've written. I wouldn't care if she could cook. She made a cottage pie and the council came round and said, that's coming down. When she makes a curry, you have to have an asbestos arsehole.
Oh my word.
Look at that.
Look at that.
That was some workingmen's club about 20 years ago. Now this. Now, he was one of my heroes.
Was he?
Yeah. I'd never met Bob Monkhouse, but I was driving along in the car one day and the phone rang. And this voice said, is this Chubby? I said, yes. He said, it's Bob. Bob? He went, Bob Monkhouse. He said, I'm sat having a glass of wine in Barbados on veranda, and I've just had dinner with Russ Abbott. And he told me you've developed throat cancer. And I just wanted to wish you all the best. And well, I was gobsmacked. I had to stop the car. I didn't even know that Bob Monkhouse knew who I was.
Have you always felt part of that kind of celebrity kind of little club, Monkhouse, what have you, Forsyth, Tarbuck? I mean, have you always felt part of that?
No,
or was that...
well, strangely enough, I'm not of their ilk, am I really? You know, they're like superstars on the TV land, golf down at Royal Ascot. You know, they have their own club, if you like.
You've never felt part of that?
No, never been part of that. No, never felt part of that. It doesn't interest me. It just doesn't interest me. I'm more of I entertain lorry drivers and road sweepers and people like that. Fitters, welders.
The garage not only houses his beloved Bentley, but also the Roy Chubby Brown rehearsal space.
This is a process of how I work, really. This is actually how I work. Especially in the summer months, because obviously this is the garage. I'll sit at my desk, I'll put down what I think follows suit as a script, and then I'll write it down on boards, and I'll put it there, then I will read the board, then I will turn away from the board, and then I will talk. Caught the wife sucking the milkman's cock the other day, so that's 2 people off my Christmas card list. I caught her sucking the milkman's cock, so that's 2 people off my Christmas card list, and she's faking orgasms. My mate told me. I think my job keeps me sane, keeps me alive. If I was going to pass away, I'd like to do it like Cooper did on stage. Might never be as famous as he is, but I would like to think that the day I passed away, everybody was talking about it. You know, say, well, he might have been controversial, but he was funny.
Every year, Roy has a live-in-concert DVD out for Christmas. This year's is called King Thong, and he's busy promoting it, tonight with a phone interview on Capital Gold. But out on mainstream media, it's a rocky ride for Roy. He wants to talk about his DVD, but they want to confront him about his act.
Live radio.
But it must seem to you now that really you can't say anything without upsetting people.
Somebody was asking me, or was it not long ago, I was being interviewed for a magazine, a woman's magazine, and this lady was, all she was talking about was racialism, sexism and feminism and all this, that and the other. And she was really getting on my tits. And as she went on and on and on about the rights and wrongs, I said, if I wanted to put the world's rights at wrongs, I would have become a politician. But I left school with no O-levels or anything like that. When I left school, I was as thick as two short planks, and I don't mind admitting it. I've had a topsy-turvy life, and I've made some. It's more remarkable now that I've made a little bit of something of myself.
Are there any limits? Is there anything you won't talk about?
I don't talk about abusing children and things like that. I'll hit on the subject by mentioning people that's in the news, like Gary Glitter and Michael Jackson. But personally, it's not the kind of subject I talk about. I don't do very many religious gags because I don't know any funny ones, and I don't bend my mind that way.
Does it not bother you that people think you're just some thick thug that goes around doing the most outrageous humour and offending people? Because you're not like that.
A lot of people, they just can't see the man and then see the act. It's two different people. You call me schizophrenic if you want. I'm not bothered. That was hard work, isn't it?
How'd it go?
All right. Sometimes they ask you questions, you know, and you haven't thought of an answer to them. It's like a question on a question. He said, if I get too personal, you can always tell me to fuck off. I said, I can't tell you that on live radio, can I?
On stage, he's a multi-million-pound success, but off stage, I could see that defending his material made Roy uncomfortable. But it hasn't always been this way. When he started off as a comedian in the early 70s, Roy told clean jokes.
She come in from the shops this morning. She said, where's the baby? I said, there's the baby. She said, that's not my baby. I said, make your mind up. You told me to change it before you went out.
And the only work he could get on television was even more harmless. And then one day, in 1972, he had to make a decision.
One of my old managers said, Roy, you can be a clean comedian or a blue comedian. If you just stay a clean comedian, I'll get your opportunity knocks. If you want to be a blue comedian, I can't get you on television. We will earn a living. I said, well, let's have a go. Well, it was difficult, you know. I walked on stage and said, good evening, my wife's got two cunts, I'm one of them. Now, to get away with that in 1972, I've had my face spit in, I've had beer glasses thrown at me. Fat bastard's the least of my worries.
He never looked back. He began to play to huge sellout crowds, and in 1985, Universal began to release a Roy Chubby Brown live-in-concert video every Christmas, selling over 250,000 copies a year. And the only work he did on television for the next 18 years was acting in The League of Gentlemen as the mayor of the town, a town called Royston Vasey.
Mayor Vaughan, thank you.
It's a fucking pleasure.
Dartford, east of London, and another packed house are taking their seats. Backstage, Roy is getting into costume, a transformation that he asks me not to film, so we talk through the door.
My material is filthy blue and it's disgusting at times, and I know that, I'm not daft. A lot of people wouldn't touch me with a 12-foot barge pole. I appreciate that. I'm not angry about it.
No.
I'm not angry about it. Are you ready for me?
I am. Without sounding poncy and actually, do you feel different when you suddenly look like that?
Well, you've got to, haven't you? You've got to. You can't be serious looking like this, can you?
If Roy was aware how offensive some people might find his brand of comedy, he also knew how others saw him as their unofficial spokesman.
There was a time when I thought, should I mention asylum seekers? It was only a couple of months ago. I thought we were having a lot of trouble with asylum seekers. I thought, should I mention it? Will it create a bit of a stir, you know? So there I was, I walked on stage, mentioned, and when I mentioned asylum seekers, the whole room stood up and clapped. And it was amazing, because I thought I was the only one who was thinking about it, because you do. You think I'm the only one, and suddenly the whole room stood up and clapped.
What that turns into is like almost like a kind of a rallying cry.
I touched a nerve, and I hadn't realised it. See, these fucking asylum seekers that get on my bastard nerves. It said in the paper the other day, when asylum seekers get to France, they get a present. We know, a fucking raft. How do you get 20 asylum seekers in a shoebox? Tell them it fucking floats.
Roy's roots are resolutely working class. He was born and raised in Grangetown, near Middlesbrough, in 1945, along with his older sister Barbara. His mum was a housewife, his dad worked at the local steel mill, but they divorced when he was 10 years old, and Roy didn't get to see his mum again for the next 7 years. I wanted to see Roy's hometown, to get a feel for the place that formed his view of the world, and so we're on a day trip to Grangetown.
You fucking ass. You see the fucking cars there? You see the fucking cars there? You fucking ass. Oh, fuck off. Fucking bald twat. This is a playground. I had my first fight. Yeah. That's our gymnasium.
Grangetown sits in the shadow of every type of industrial plant going. A port, a chemicals works, a power station and steel mills, where Roy's dad Colin worked for 50 years.
The only time he wasn't at work is when he was suspended for drinking, climbing the fence and going for a pint. Twice that happened to him.
Your dad liked to drink?
Oh, fucking hell, yeah.
Did he drink quite heavily?
His food used to drown. Yeah, I like to drink. Everybody here likes to drink. You got that on your fucking lungs all day, that muck and shit and filth. Of course you like to drink.
Growing up in Grangetown, Roy got into a lot of trouble. He ran away from home aged 14 and then did spells in Borstal and prison.
People who know me, they say it's Chubby Brown. It's remarkable from where he's come from to where he's got to, knowing what he's been through. They wouldn't have me in the army because I was thick. I joined the Navy. I was in the Navy a couple of years. I did detention at Borstal, a couple of prison sentences. I was in and out of trouble all the time. I was mixing with people who used to say, hey, I've got an idea. We'll rob this, we'll steal that, we'll kill that, we'll fight that, we'll pull this, we'll punch that. You're mixing with them people. You start thinking how they think. I'm just glad I got out of it. And I got out of it because I started to educate myself. I'm no Bamba Gascoigne, by the way. But at least I know the difference between right and wrong.
Roy takes me to see a house he'd lived in as a boy, and we meet the present occupiers.
I was born down there, but I moved in here when I was a kid. I lived here. I used to camp out on that front row.
That's why you've got a bed upstairs.
That's what I looked like when I didn't train.
It's only 1 degree above freezing, but one member of the household wears just a pair of boxer shorts and an electronic tag.
Yeah, there you go. When you come from this environment, well, you can understand, can't you?
Well, you can.
How lucky we are if you get out of it, because you can be easily bottled up.
Do you kind of thank the Lord that you're not here?
Doesn't mean easy, but of course we do, yeah. The first 20 minutes of my act for years was all about my life, about what my father did, about what my mother did, about getting into debt, about getting bathed in an old cast iron bath.
We had fuck all. I mean, fuck all. Fuck all. If I hadn't been a boy, I'd have had nothing to play I had to wear my father's hand-me-down trousers for school, which was fucking embarrassing. Undoing the zip just to blow your bastard nose. We didn't even have a lavatory brush, can you believe that? I had to sellotape my head jug to a stick and ask it to hold its breath.
I never saw a black man until I was about 16 or 17. Never saw a black man.
Right.
And then when I did, I couldn't stop staring at them. Because what was given to us at school was, what we were taught at school was black men lived in Africa and had a bone through the nose and a spear.
Now that people live in a much more sort of multiracial society,
that's right.
Obviously that's just 40, 50 years.
Yes, I know what you say when you say, well, that's the old stereotype, bone through the nose and the spear and everything. When you're brought up on it, it's like if you're brought up on beans on toast, you'll always like beans on toast, won't you? Do you not think that sometimes the truth is funnier than a lie? What I mean by that is, say for instance I said to you, I was with a coloured girl last night, her pubes were like a fucking coconut man. Is that not funny? Because you know fact that coloured girls' pubes are like coconut man. It's the truth, is it?
I could tell that Roy has no idea how shocking his view of the world sounds. His comments are more than just outdated, and a couple of days later it would get even worse.
We went home tonight. If we went home now after the gym and there was a Muslim sat there, we'd say, what the fucking hell are you doing in our house? Out.
In a small recording studio, Roy puts the finishing touches to his Christmas song.
Jingle bollocks, what a load of crap. Here comes that fat fucker with his sack of cap. Jingle bollocks, no present for our lass. As far as I'm concerned, Santa stick Christmas up your ass. Stick fucking Christmas up your fucking ass. For
Just started this again.
Stick fucking Christmas up your fucking ass.
After every bit, stick fucking Christmas up your fucking ass.
Roy and Helen's house in Lincolnshire. Metaphorically speaking, the Chubby flag is flying, Roy is in residence. It's breakfast time for Reese, 4, and Amy, 2. Helen gets the kids ready for school. Music is an important part of Roy's life. He has a piano in almost every room in both of his houses and can spend hours on end composing, writing not only songs like Jingle Bollocks and The Dogs in Bangkok, but ballads like this one, written for his wife Helen.
Ever since the world began, a woman and a man have lived in harmony. It's the same for you and me. Wives, W-I-F-E-S, washing, ironing, food, and extra fucking sex. Yesterday, run upstairs, she said, and make love to me. I said, make your mind up, I can't do fucking both.
I film for a couple of days and see Royston, the devoted family man, playing with his kids and doting on his wife. Roy and Helen have been married for 5 years. She's his third wife. They met when she came backstage at one of his shows and have never looked back.
I didn't think this could ever happen, whereas I would be this happy, because I'd had relationships, I'd had marriages, I'd gone through life thinking the wrong things. There's no airs and graces in this house. I can drive 5 hours from, say, Weston-super-Mare, and I arrive home here and cold, hungry, tired, and I'll walk in the door and I'm expecting, Daddy, Daddy, oh, hello, but it's not like that. They have their lives, and I'm coming in, after being to work, I'm coming into their lives, and I normally open the front door and hear, you'll have to go to the shops with no bread. I said, I've just drove, well, you'll have to go to the shops with no bread, and there's only a little bit of milk left, and if you want a biscuit, you'll have to get some jammy dodgers. So...
Keeps you grounded.
Yeah. Well, that's it, after bringing back down to earth, after standing in front of about, 2,000 people.
3 years ago, Roy was diagnosed with throat cancer.
We just sat down and cried, didn't we, all night? We just...
She'd been crying all... You'd been crying all the way, hadn't you?
Just couldn't take it in.
Her face had shrunk. Her face had shrunk. She got there.
We just couldn't take it in, and all night we just held it.
She said, I've just found you and I'm going to lose you. Well, because that's how you think.
When you've been through all that, that's what I mean. You have to live each day as it comes and live it good. Which we do, don't we? That's why we don't really argue. We just don't get a chance.
Roy had to have one of his vocal cords removed. He was unable to speak for 7 months and thought his career was over. His voice is now profoundly weaker than it was, but since the operation, he's been hitting the gym on a regular basis. Today, with his mate Keith, it's time for a workout.
When did those people start calling you
I've been Chubby around since 1973.
Who called you Chubby?
Myself.
Really?
Yeah, I was, at the time, I was about 21 stone, and I had a bit of a double chin, and I decided to call myself Chubby Brown.
So then you were like billed as Roy Chubby Brown?
Yeah, Roy Chubby Brown.
We talked about the early Chubby years and whether he's been aware of offending people.
I have made mistakes in the past. I was being interviewed by a radio station, and the news come through that Bob Marley had died. And you know how a comic's brain works. I was on air and I said, what's that? I said, the news has just come in that Bob Marley has died. And I said, oh, that's good. More shit for everybody. Well, the radio station was inundated with calls, especially from West Indians with dreadlocks, you know. They were going to kill me, stab the bastard, they were saying. So one of them came to the radio station and I was still on air, wanted to speak to me, but we sneaked out the back door.
Do you consider that a mistake, what you said? Or
yeah, it's just comedy mind working in it.
Whenever you're off stage, whenever you're not doing a gig, you know, you're at the radio station or out in public or whatever, you must have to kind of slightly sort of filter yourself as far as what you can say and what you can't say. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you weigh the situation up.
Yeah.
You can call a midget a dwarf or a midget. What's he going to do? He's a fucking midget, for God's sake. But if a bloke's 6'7" and he's built like a brick shithouse, you don't call him lofty. You think ahead. Right, let's have a cup of tea, yeah?
Workout over, it's time for a snack.
We're having sausage sandwiches with onions on.
Roy and Keith are joined by another mate, Mick.
Oh, smell that sausage. Sausage sandwiches and pussy on the same par.
They start to talk about what's in the papers today, and then, without warning, I see a side to Royston I'd not seen before.
Ban Christmas gifts for children.
Because it might affect non-Christians.
It's offensive to other people. They make me fucking sick. They come here dressed like fucking pillar boxes, don't they?
Yeah.
Eh? Come over here. You can't say this, you can't say that. Why don't they just fuck off home? All the Pakistanis and Indians, when they go home at night, they go home to an Indian family. A Pakistani go home to a Pakistani family. We go home to our family. We went home tonight. If we went home now after the gym and there was a Muslim sat there, we'd say, what the fucking hell are you doing in our house? Out. Yeah. We don't mix. We don't get on, it's as simple as that.
Asylum seekers, well, all right. Let them come away from the war-torn countries, kids getting killed and all that. Let them come here. But don't take the piss.
You get all these do-gooders saying, well, they have a right to be here. They haven't got a fucking right to be here. We're the ones who finance. The tax I pay finances half the bastards.
Yeah.
Is it coming here, they have a right for this and they have a right for that. Well, if they have a right, dress like us, work like us, think like us, be like us.
Because obviously you wouldn't personally have a great deal of experience of asylum seekers yourself, where, you know, in your lifestyle, where you live, what you do. But you...
I'm like everybody else. It's all in the papers, isn't it? You read about these things and you go, oh my God, and it builds up a picture. We live in a country now where you daren't form an opinion. You daren't form an opinion because they're down your throat straight away.
So we'll be having an Indian tonight, are we?
Yeah.
To build our energy up for in the morning.
Yeah, we'll have to have an Indian tonight.
The line between Royston Vasey and Roy Chubby Brown was becoming alarmingly blurred. It sounded like the act, but without the punchlines. That evening, the Roy Chubby Brown tour hits Scarborough. In his dressing room, Roy prepares by steaming his vocal cords.
I don't know if you understand vocal cords or not. It's I don't know if I've explained this to you, but your vocal cords are shaped, and mine aren't, because I had to have them removed because of the cancer. Right. So the air comes from your lungs and goes across the top, and I've got to shape them, and to shape them you've got to steam your throat.
An hour before curtain up, Roy grants an audience to two local fans.
Becky.
Hello, Becky.
My husband.
Mark. Hello, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm starstruck.
Starstruck, yeah.
I am, yeah.
Pity you hadn't been here. We could have had sex. What do you do for a living then?
I'm old bacon factory.
All right.
Yeah.
Factory worker.
Yeah. Pays money.
Well, of course it does. We all have to earn a wage, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
We'd like to do this for a living. Fucking hell. Are we? Yeah, Jeff. I'm in the middle. Fat bastards on the right. Testicles.
Perfect.
Tonight's show isn't sold out. In fact, it will only be half full. Roy believes the entire live comedy business is in decline.
I think this business is on its arse. Our better days were the 80s and the 90s, early 90s. Maybe the 70s as well. That were our better days. We had the great days then.
Well, what is it about the business now that what's doing it?
I haven't a clue. I mean, to put a show on like this, you know, I have about 8 lads work for me. To put a show on like this with your backdrop engineers and your sound engineers and your lighting technicians and your van drivers and the lad who sells the merchandise and all that, it's all expenditure. You have to have. I have to sell. I don't know whether I'm giving trade secrets away, but I have to sell 500 tickets before a penny's my own. Because everybody needs paying.
So wherever you are, above 500 you're into profit, but below you're
below 500, everybody else is getting paid, not me.
After Roy's earlier rant about asylum seekers, watching his act tonight seems like an altogether different experience.
There's 120,000 black millionaires in this country now. That's a fucking shocking statistic, that, isn't it? If we'd known that, we'd have picked our own fucking cotton, wouldn't we? You daren't fucking laugh, dare you? In case we got one in. In case you get a fucking spear in the back. Fuck 'em, that's what I say.
The racist jokes tonight have been the worst I've heard from Roy. And just when it seems the day can't get any stranger, he takes us all for a curry.
I'll just have French fries and a chicken.
Do you want some naan bread? I'll sit down there.
Want a porter?
Yeah.
Next.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're all making me look white.
Well, this is it, yeah, you're going well, you're going pale.
If I thought this was going to happen, I'd have gone in the fucking sunbed for half an hour.
Cheers, Roy. Thanks, mate.
Bless you. Bless you. Can I get you a drink? Can you all have a drink? Have a drink.
Cheers, thanks for that, yeah.
Have a drink for the staff and put on my bill, please.
In just one day, my impression of Roy had changed dramatically, with the views of Royston Vasey and the comedy of Chubby Brown sitting uneasily together. It all painted a confusing picture of Roy. A few days later, Roy is in London for his appearance on The Frank Skinner Show, his first appearance on network television for 18 years. Together with his mate Keith, the two of them, like two large likely lads from Middlesbrough, are on their way to the studios.
Well, look at that. Oh, Buckingham Palace. There's a queen in, there's a light on. Phil!
Should be doing a pan of chips.
I brought a box of biscuits.
Box of biscuits?
Yeah, I've got a biscuit for Frank Skinner.
What's the significance of it?
Just a present, because he's getting fuck all else.
What do you think about this Frank Skinner show? Are you excited about this?
Yeah, yeah. I've never met him before. Apparently the show's good. Everybody watches it. It should be okay.
It's a big ITV show.
Yeah, I don't know. It's 18 years since I was on TV, so I don't know what to expect.
Well, that's kind of a big moment for you then, surely.
Yeah, it's not the be and end all. I'm too old now to make any inroads to TV, but yeah, I'm happy about it.
Have you had a chat with him beforehand?
No, I haven't. No, I don't even know what he's going to ask me. I haven't got a clue what he's going to ask me. I'll just have to be on guard.
Having seen some of Roy's off-guard moments, I'd have to agree with him. I get the feeling he's nervous about tonight, not that he'd admit it. He'll be appearing on a mainstream show on ITV as himself, not Roy Chubby Brown.
Oh, they are. They're real, man. Isn't that fantastic?
This is an alien environment for Roy, and the stakes are high.
He said, let's just enjoy it. I said, don't worry, Frank. I know what you're thinking. I will behave myself.
Roy's appearance on The Frank Skinner Show begins, and it's not long before he has to defend his comedy.
I've got to be absolutely honest with you. Well, I watched the DVD, the new one, and there was a few gags on it that that upset me a bit.
You did?
I did. And I'm kind of known as a bit of a...
Yeah, neither Mark.
Because, I mean, you do what I would call racist gags.
I do, yeah.
And
they're not
I
racist.
still find
I'll tell you
that...
why they're not racist to me, Frank. I'll tell you why, because that's not my forte. If I wanted to put the world's wrongs it right, I'd have been a politician. I would have gone into that field, and I would have been, you know, there's a lot of do-gooders. I always say this about do-gooders. They always complain about something. It's fun. There's no laws in comedy, no rules. Personally, if they say you crack a joke about a coloured bloke, I've never met a coloured bloke yet I didn't like. They're lovely people. It's the white bastards I have trouble with. It's like, it doesn't matter. Chinese joke, yellow joke, fat joke, thin joke, dwarf joke, midget joke. Does it matter? It's a bit of fun. Look in the dictionary under humour and see what it says.
Well, I'm talking from gut now rather than from head, because, you know, I laughed at a lot of the stuff, and that particular stuff, I don't often get... I was not so much... It didn't piss me off, so I just found it a bit upsetting.
I'm conscious of it.
Frank also talks about Roy's acting in The League of Gentlemen.
I think you're a really good comedy actor.
But nobody's asked me before.
No, but I think you could... OK, you're a racist bastard, but...
When he called me a big racist bastard, all my mates were saying, why didn't you get up and punch the fucker? I said, you can't do that. They're all saying, you should have knocked the fucker out. I said, you can't do that. You'd never work on television again, you know.
But in the scheme of things, I mean, would that hurt you for somebody to say that to you? Would you feel offended by that?
No.
In everyday conversation, though, if somebody said that, would you, I mean, away from the TV cameras?
Away from the TV cameras, I wouldn't have thought anybody would call me that. They've no right to call me that. After the Frank Skinner show, the next morning, 9:30, I have a phone call from Bernard Manning. He said, Chubby, I was proud of you last night, mate. You stuck by your guns. You told them, you're just like me. You call a spade, and that's all there is to it. I said, well, Bernard, I've spent 37 years doing this material. I can't change now. He said, neither can I. Neither can I.
I was coming to the end of my time with Roy, and regardless of whether he'd be interested or not, I decided to give him my feedback. I've been filming for about a month now, like, off and on. Watched a lot of your stuff, watched a lot of gigs, watched a lot of all this stuff, and a lot of it I find hilarious. A lot of it I find, you know, the kind of self-deprecating, war of the sexes kind of, this fat daft bloke who women hate him, or, you know, all that kind of stuff I think is...
Bragging about having a big cock and really, you know, it's obvious by looking at him, there's no way...
Exactly. But any joke based on race, for me, leaves me cold.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. It seems like...
Well, it's because you're not in the same... You don't live in the same environment as us. I have to admit that us, anywhere north of Watford, we're a little bit behind the times. Can I ask you something here? Sure. Is it fair to take the piss out of women's fannies and tits and men's dicks and bollocks and homosexuality and not talk about Asian, Pakistanis, blacks, West Indians? Do you think, is that a different concept to you then? Is that...
Personally,
yeah,
it is, because when it's talking about sex, it's kind of you're the underdog.
Yeah.
And when it's talking about race, it's suddenly you're not the underdog. These are fairly political statements as jokes, but they have a political, and that's why, you know, that it seems like, well, people aren't laughing as much; they're cheering. You're getting a reaction.
Yeah.
But it's not actually. They're not laughing. It's a lot more cheering. Do you know what I mean?
If you asked if you asked the majority of my audience, do they like the fact that I tell racial humour? They'd probably say, "What are you talking about? What, I mean, explain to me what you're talking about." They're not politically minded. They're not. It's a joke, mate. It's a joke. Makes you laugh, man. Are you West Indian? I thought you were a piano with a lid up when you smiled. It's a joke. It's a joke. If you're going to walk on eggshells all your life, and you're going to be frightening you know, you're letting them win. You're letting these people win. I'm not inciting a riot. I'm not inciting to go out there and hate these people or them to hate you. We're all entitled to our own opinions. Why do we always blame the comics? Why is it the joke part of it that's no?
I still wasn't sure whether Roy was trying to justify his politics, his act, or whether it all came down to him earning a very good living.
I'm not bothered about what other people think. As long as my wife, my kids are all right, and I'm financially secure to help them, and I can live as long as I can. It's a very, very, very selfish attitude. I know what you're saying. I know what you could be thinking.
Tonight will be Roy's last show of the season in Blackpool. It's a chilly Sunday night and the town is empty, but despite this, Roy has still managed to sell 300 tickets for this evening's performance. Even so, he'll make no money tonight. Despite the costume, I think there's very little to separate Roy Chubby Brown from Royston Vasey, but I genuinely believe that he'd be upset to think that people were offended by his material. Over the years, he's probably offended very few. After all, his fans know exactly what to expect when they turn up to see one of his shows or buy a DVD. And as long as they do continue to turn up and laugh at his act, he'll keep doing it, away from the mainstream, preaching to the converted, behind closed doors.
Now you fucking recognise me?